Joshua, good morning to you. There's so much to talk about as far as renewable energy, solar energy, of course, being one of the biggest talking points as well. I'd like to know about this conference, though. Often when there's new technology like solar and renewable, there's a lot of competition. Everyone's trying to outdo each other and get that business, get that tender. I imagine a conference like this is quite unusual, but you're all sharing ideas.
Yeah, and I think that's the way forward, especially for South Africa and Africa, as we have to join forces and look at how we grow the industry across Africa. I think there's so much potential in this country and on the continent. I mean, South Africa has the highest 24-hour global solar radiation average in the world. And so there's plenty of potential, in particular for solar and for wind. And listening to the news this morning, I heard the unfortunate ratings agency downgrades, and I think this is the silver lining or the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of growing the economy and creating jobs.
We're going to be hearing about those downgrades with our business anchor, Devin Murrigan, in a moment. And I'm so glad you actually raised that, Joshua. It's a very good point, because part of the downgrading is this continuous borrowing of money, a lot of that going to state-owned enterprises, particularly in our conversation, you and I. Is that going to be of Eskom? It's this reliance of money we don't have to keep a state-owned entity going, which doesn't necessarily seem to be at the top of its game. When we say the silver lining and the end of the road and all those wonderful cliches, where is the end of the road on this? Are you and I going to be talking again in 5 years' time and not much has changed?
Well, I think there's a few positive things that have happened in the last month, as you probably know, with the economic recovery and reconstruction plan that Cyril Ramaphosa put forward in terms of the targets in renewable energy and opening up the energy market was one of them. I don't know, many of the listeners may know, but there's a new project to procure 2,000 megawatts of electricity from renewable sources. Now, the bid window closes for that on the 23rd of December this year. And so there is definitely movement. We've got the REAP program, the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer program, which aims to procure 11,000 megawatts of electricity by 2023. And then by 2030, now you've got to understand, at the moment we source 5% of our electricity from renewable energy sources. 95% comes from Eskom. By 2030, if we follow the plan which government has been sticking to up till now, 30% of our electricity will come from renewable energy sources.
And what is that going to mean for the average consumer in South Africa? Because there is a cost point, excuse me, Joshua, about having solar installed at a private premises. The barrier to entry, cost-wise, is just still incredibly high. I think many people do want to do it, but the costs are staggering just to get your small home off the grid, essentially.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was listening to the World Bank actually do a presentation, and if you look at it over the last 10 years, the cost of solar in particular has come down between 60 to 70%. So I think as the market opens and competition rises and technology improves, the cost will continue to go down over the next 5 to 10 years. And, you know, you ask about the impact on the general consumer and on the industry. What a lot of people don't realize is since the integrated resource plan was put in place in 2010, which has this target by 2030 to procure 30% of electricity from renewable energy sources, there has been over 200 billion rands worth of private investment into the sector. And the sector has created already 38,000 jobs. So not only will it over time mean that the cost of electricity and also what's more important is reliability improve. It has significant impact on consumers and the economy in terms of investment, in terms of job creation, and so there's many facets to it.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning. I'm sure we'll be speaking to many people involved in the sector. I'm going to say thank you very much this morning to Messe Frankfurt MD from the South African office. It's Joshua Lowe joining us here on the South African Morning.